Hey everyone, welcome back to Beauty and Bubbles. We're really excited to have Mike back with Breakthrough Beverage, as well as Ashley, our lash queen, and Ida, our bartender, makeup, I don't know, esthetician. She's the all-around queen. Goat. She's the goat. So we're going to be talking everything about sparkling wine, champagnes, cocktails that you can make out of something bubbly. So let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to put in a question on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it might be. So thanks everybody for coming back.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah. So about time we have some bubbles on the Beauty and Bubbles show.
It's time to taste some bubbles. We're bringing the bubbles to Beauty and Bubbles.
Perfect. So I've got 3 different ones. We're gonna go lightest to heaviest, like we did with the whiskey.
If everybody remembers,
hopefully it's not as painful. It shouldn't be.
I think I can master this.
Yeah.
This is definitely more our speed.
Yeah. All right. Great. It's more my speed as well.
Yes.
So first thing on opening a champagne or sparkling wine bottle, there's a little cage on top. You want to keep your thumb on top of it as you're opening it, because they're all under pressure.
Yeah.
And these corks can fly out.
I've had that happen before here.
It happens when you don't want it to. When you want it to and you're like forcing it, it won't fly out.
Mike's going to teach us the tricks of opening a bottle of bubbly, because sometimes they're really tough to get out.
We were almost knocked out, Shane.
I almost killed a client once. It went all the way back to the bathroom.
Wow. Yeah, I had one in my rep bag, and I was walking through a restaurant, and the cork shot off. Yeah, and it hit the hood on the back of the kitchen, so it made like a ping. It was like,
you're like, please don't hit anybody. Please
ting.
don't kill.
Shots fired.
Good times. Didn't make the sale.
You can never do that in 1,000 years again if you try.
Nope. So once you undo the cage, you want to kind of twist the bottle from the bottom and hold the cork at the top.
I'm trusting you so much right now. I'm about to lose an eye.
And you always want to tilt it at the angle, on an angle. I try to take about like 30 seconds to open it, just so
Kind
it
of
doesn't.
let some gas come out.
You just want a little hiss coming out of it. What you don't want is for it to overflow. I know it looks cool and it's fun. There's like a poof, and
It's not fun.
Well, it's a waste.
It's a waste.
It is a waste, number one. And number two, it's not great when you're working and you have taken a champagne bath or a beer bath in the beginning of your day.
So I heard a champagne bottle should be opened in a way that sounds like a woman's sighing. That was pretty close.
All right.
That was pretty good.
It was good.
So one of the things about the champagne corks, they don't actually go back in because the pressure in there, they have to form them a little bit differently. But yeah, so that's the best way to open a bottle.
So they like expand once they come out?
They do.
Is that how it happens?
Exactly the size.
It's always a mystery to me. I'm like, why is it so big? And it came out of the hole, but it won't go back in.
Interesting. I've never thought about it.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that because I actually don't know. So the first one is Domaine Saint Michel, and this is a Brut Rosé, and this comes from Washington, from the folks at Chateau Saint Michel. It is super delicious.
What are the differences between, like, you always see Brut or extra dry?
Yeah.
What
Such a good question.
What do those kind of mean?
Well, it's a little confusing. The system's a little bit odd on how they name them. Brut is the driest. Extra dry is the one just a little sweeter than Brut. It's confusing, isn't it?
Right?
So that's kind of how that goes. Then there's also ones called demi-sec, which means slightly sweet. And then there's a sec as well, that's sweet by the residual sugar that's inside of it. So most of the ones that you'll see out are Brut. Or Proseccos, you'll see Brut or extra dry. But in most sparkling wines, like from the US, and then most champagne, Brut's really going to be the one that you see.
So this is a dry, sparkling rosé.
It is.
Okay.
Yep. And that's made from Pinot Noir grapes and Pinot Meunier grapes. And then in real, like champagne, they use a blend of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, or Pinot Meunier. And then there's a couple different styles within that we can talk about later.
Cool.
So,
Cheers.
Because
Cheers.
rosé is like
Red.
a little mix between like red and white grapes, right? They
Oh.
just don't ferment as long or something.
what they do
Is
is
that
they
Sorry. That's
all
worse
the
than-
well, that's,
Let's cheers. Save that.
what they do with the rosé. So when they crush the grapes, whether the grape's white or red, it's all going to be clear juice that comes out. So to make a rosé, they just put the skins in it for a short amount of time. That gives it a little bit of color and a little bit more flavor. For like a red wine, if they're making like a full-bodied red wine, they'd keep the skins in there much longer and let it kind of warm up. So a good example of that is if you're making a cup of tea, if you have your tea leaves in there for a very short amount of time, it's just going to have like a really faint color to it.
Okay.
If you leave it in there for a long time and stir it, it's going to be really robust.
And
So-
those flavors change as time goes on.
The darker the rosé, the longer the skin has been left in.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
And that means it's just a more full-bodied rosé.
That's true. Yep. Yeah.
We're learning so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I like it. I've actually had this
Right.
one before.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's not whiskey, so.
It is not whiskey. Not even close.
So, what makes a sparkling wine?
Also, a great question. So, what happens is that for wines that are made in the champagne method, there's a secondary fermentation that happens within the bottle, and that's how it gets so much pressure, and that's how the bubbles actually get in there for that method of doing it. So, what happens is that they make the wine, they make the still wine, then they put it in a bottle. They usually let the yeast stay in there for a while. The yeast dies and kind of falls to the bottom, and the wine sits over it. Over time, it adds a little complexity to the wine, like another layer of flavor. And then from there, they need to get the yeast out. So actually, Madame Clicquot, you guys all know Veuve Clicquot, right? She invented, or I'm not sure if she invented, but she definitely adapted the current system for getting the yeast out, which is called riddling. So what riddling is they take a bottle of champagne that still has the yeast in it, and then they put it in a rack like this. And then they've got different degrees of steepness. So it starts off like this, so all the yeast collects here. Then they gently turn it and go like that, and then gently turn it again, and gently turn it over months and months. So all the yeast comes down to the neck. And from there, they freeze it, take off the top, and then a little kind of like pellet of yeast comes out.
And then they recork it and
Well, before they recork it, they add a little bit of wine back in that's got more sugar.
right. Okay.
And so the sugar that goes back in, any of the yeast that's still in there, will re-ferment. So it'll start again. So originally, how bubbles got in there was that champagne's very cold in the wintertime. So the fermentation would stop in the winter, and then in the spring, when the cellar warmed back up and everything was warmer, they would re-ferment, all the bottles would. And so initially, the bubbles were something that they really tried to get rid of. You guys all know the name Dom Perignon? That was
We
his. You do? Very well. Well, his most of his career was actually trying to figure out how to get the bubbles out of the champagne.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like an accidental surprise.
Do you
That's
think that
Yeah.
he's like turning over in his grave right now, like, shoot, I really missed out?
No.
Or
I
do you
don't
think his
so.
family's like real happy?
I
He
think
couldn't figure it out.
I think the family's probably real happy. Yeah.
So why is that, like, why is that kind of wine or champagne or percent, why is that so much more expensive than?
Oh, it's from the vineyards that the grapes come from. They come from like a smaller area of greater quality. So that always raises the price. It also has the name as well.
Okay.
Brand
Like that
recognition.
Crystal
Brand
and
Yeah.
Yep.
Moet.
It's like a
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton
That's yeah.
Exactly. I think that-
of champagne.
We should have done like a blind test of like a really expensive and then like a white
White dog on my Wycliffe.
And we'd be like,
Yeah.
this is so much better.
Right.
I like it
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
more.
I like who doesn't love expensive champagne, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know, I couldn't tell, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of times with the Dom Perignon, they'll release vintages of it. In champagne and sparkling wines, there usually isn't like a vintage date on it. For that to happen, France and Champagne have to declare it a vintage year, where the conditions for the grapes are excellent, and they only do it when it is excellent. So that way they don't kind of dilute their finest product, because you can't say it's the very, very best every single year, because it's just not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I mean, define it being the best. Like, it's the best bubbles or flavor or like, I don't understand.
it would
I
be
guess
the
The
Great.
conditions,
Yeah.
right? The conditions for
But does
growing.
it
or
Rain
like-
and
Yeah.
how the grapes
I
grew.
feel like it kind of tastes the same. No?
well.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it all tastes good, right?
It all tastes good. So
You can never have a bad day with
I
bubbles.
don't think
That's
I've
right.
had like bad bubbles.
Right.
I don't. Like,
Oh no
be
no!
able to tell.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm
But
just saying
here,
they're
I'm
the
like,
very best.
It's
People
like a
can
limited
really
edition
tell.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in certain years that make the best grapes. But you do bring up a good point though too. A lot of the champagne houses, most of them, they have like a house style and a house blend, so that when they have their non-vintage wines out, ones that don't have a date on it, that they're going to taste consistent. They've got a consistency of product, and that in their cellars they've got many different vintages in holding, so they mix different years together to get that house style. So when you're saying they all taste similar, they do it by
You're
design.
right.
They do it by design.
It's like
They do it
Brew
by
King
design.
called 1982 a vintage the very best year ever.
It's kind of
Right.
like the suicide mix of spray tan.
It's just now that
Make it all the same.
Like,
Yeah.
can you tell different years of wines and champagnes if you were to drink them?
I couldn't say specific years,
Yeah.
but if there was like a vintage one against a non-vintage
It's our
one,
favorite
I would like to think so.
client.
I just have to say hi.
Hi!
I just got in and I've got takeout.
Say hi to everybody at
Right.
Facebook.
Oh, you're awful. I
Right, yeah.
said that. I just was like, oh, that's something.
Stop that. We're always so glad to see you.
I'm gonna go watch you now.
Perfect. That's Tabby, everybody. She's
Yeah.
like our favorite. We haven't seen her in a long time.
Yeah.
How long does it take to make a bottle of sparkling wine or champagne? Are they pretty similar? Does it take years and years? Or
Sparkling wines, like this one, are much quicker. They don't sit on the lees and sit on in the cellar for as long. So champagne has got to be at least 15 months in the cellar before they release it.
okay.
So champagne in general takes longer. There's some sparkling wines out of California that are treated in the same way. They just can't call it champagne because it's not from Champagne.
So the difference between, I was like, this is a question that we had
Yeah.
earlier. Prosecco, champagne, sparkling wine.
Yep.
Go. Tell us all of it.
Prosecco, like the market-leading La Marca, is made from the Glera grape, and so it's a different grape that goes in there. The way that they make it is different as well. So when they make the base wine that's still doesn't have bubbles, it goes into a big tank, and then that tank is injected with the carbon dioxide. So it's put into a big tank, and then it's bottled already bubbly. So it doesn't have as much pressure in it. And in Proseccos and different sparkling wines that are made in that style, their bubbles are a little bigger.
Yeah. I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
where does the bubble size come from?
Yep, it comes from the pressure
Okay.
on the inside. So champagne, where the pressure was made entirely within that bottle, it's going to be a smaller bubble, and then it's also going to kind of bubble up more rapidly as well when it's in a glass. Prosecco's a little bit larger bubble, and it's not going to really have that really great looking bead that kind of strings along. They'll just kind of be a little more random. So does that explain the difference?
Yeah.
And then champagne, is it true that it's only from France, like to be categorized
Yeah.
truly as champagne?
Uh-huh. Yep, from the Champagne region in France. And it has to be from those 3 specific grapes. It has to be aged for at least 15 months. And there's a bunch of different things on it, like when we were talking about whiskeys and things like that. Like they have to be from a certain. Well, I'm sure in your industry, they've got to have certain rules for certain products to be called certain things.
Yeah, that
You
makes
know,
sense.
so do you want to give a shot opening the bottle
Sure, absolutely.
without hitting Ashley? Because you're going to point it that way. Put your thumb on the top.
Oh,
Thumb on the top.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not
point it straight.
not my first rodeo.
Okay.
I always take the cage off, should I not?
Yeah, you should not.
Okay.
You should hold it, and then
Oh,
twist,
so you
twist
keep
from the
the
bottom.
cage on.
Yep.
Well,
There you go.
that was an excited woman.
There you go.
That is how you do it. I always take the cage off.
Yeah.
Or
Living dangerous.
I should always put, or try to put a towel over the top of it. Just
Does
to
the
be safe.
cage, so yes, people put like
A towel over
a towel or something, but the cage is what keeps the cork from like going all crazy.
That's
Is
true.
that
Yep.
the purpose of it? I'm
That is,
assuming.
that is the purpose of it. So, kind of in the early days of champagne, they didn't have strong enough glass to really hold the champagne in. So, in a lot of times in the cellars, if there was an accident and a cork flew out, it would start breaking other bottles. It would shoot other corks, and you can imagine the chaos. Yeah. So the workers that actually worked in the cellars, then they had to have like big leather aprons and like masks and things like that.
Either way, I don't care. I like a good blend.
Thank you, darling.
Sorry.
Your nails are long.
Said no one
I
ever.
pour a little bit more of a tasting. Kind of a full glass. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah,
The La Marca. It's a good price point too.
it is. Yeah, and the style of the wine's great. It's got good fruit to it. All the proseccos and the cavas, the Spanish bubbling ones, they're going to be a bit more fruit driven. When we go to the champagne, it's got some fruit to it, but it's got some other layers to it. But they're great for drinking every day.
Right.
To go. Yeah.
It's my
Now you're
everyday.
talking my language.
Right? It's a breakfast bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a breakfast drink.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, cheers.
Mhm. Cheers.
Cheers, Mike.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, gals. It's so good.
La Marca is so
Ah,
good.
it's
Yeah.
so smooth.
Are these
It
kind
is.
of like all a great price point? I know that like we were talking about kind of with Dom being like
Yeah.
higher, maybe like you have your barefoot or something like that on the lower end.
Yeah.
Like how do you kind of, if you're going to a dinner party,
Entrees.
what do you think is like a nice price point or a nice bottle to like kind of bring
Yeah,
without
let's leave it without being
looking?
embarrassed.
Yeah.
How much do you like these people?
Well, I always judge it by that,
Right,
or how much they're going to judge if I
Right,
bring
yeah.
a cheap bottle.
Like entrees is a
Great for mimosas. Great for brunch. Andre is.
entree.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, because I represent Nicholas Filiat,
Yeah.
it's a great everyday champagne on the shelf. In the liquor store, you probably find it, let's say, under 50, which I think for champagne's a good mark.
Mhm.
I know like the Vivica cloves, they're usually over there, over 50 in stores. I mean, obviously your Doms are going to be up there as well. It's probably right around the same point as Moet. I guess depending on which Moet you have.
What's
So-
the most expensive?
Most expensive champagne? In our book, probably a Dom Perignon, like a vintage one of that.
What would that
So-
run?
Probably $1,000, I would think.
I had Cristal one time.
Yeah.
Where does Cristal fall?
What's that?
Where does Cristal?
Uh,
Is it like
It's on the higher end. Yeah. On the shelf in the store, it's probably around $250, I'd say.
Interesting. I used to live in Telluride, and this was like 10 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it was 400.
Well, that's mountain
You're in
price.
a hotel, right?
You're in mountain,
That's
yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah.
You're out to take higher prices.
Right?
I got a beer in Vail and it was
Ripped
$15.
off. Yeah, ripped off.
It was just a Bud Light.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think if you're going with bubbles, if you want to spend $20, you can go with Prosecco. You can go with like an American sparkling, like Chandon. They've got things like in the $20 range. Then from there, the next step up is going to be to a champagne, which is going to be right around the $50 mark. So, if
So
you're
50 is kind of like average
Yeah.
to spend on a bottle of champagne, unless you're going to be a baller, get
That's true.
Crestal and
That's true.
Dom and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I feel if I'm taking a bottle of anything somewhere, under 50 is kind of my range, unless it's something really special,
Yeah.
you know. But I think if that you set your budget at 50 and under, I think you're going to be in good company.
Do you have any tricks of keeping, like we said, the corks don't go back in to a bottle
Yeah.
of bubbles? What if you can't polish one off in a night?
I'm sorry. Who are you?
Right.
I'm asking for
So
the people.
for someone like that,
Literally asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
This can literally work.
yeah.
Not for us.
Yeah.
They've got special enclosures that you can get at a store for them. So they're, it kind of looks like a cork, but then it's got like metal pieces that come down that hold it on.
I actually have a trick.
Oh yeah, what's your trick?
A spoon.
Ugh,
A
my
spoon?
grandma used to always do that.
Put a spoon in the top of it, and I promise you there will still be bubbles in
My
it
grandma
for
would
days.
do it with soda.
For days?
What?
Days.
Uh-huh.
How do you
Like-
make it last for days? But
I don't
You
know
have to
about
find it-
days, but
Days.
like a long enough spoon that it has to touch the liquid?
No.
just like a spoon.
Just any
spoon.
It just has to fit through the top of it.
Just the handle.
Handle.
Yeah.
Okay.
My grandma used to always do that with
Really?
soda. It used
So
to
like
keep
that
it
little
to carb.
spoon could do it?
Yeah.
Now, this
Well, it may not
Just like
sit
a
on top.
regular
So
spoon.
it has to sit on top of
Yeah.
like
demonstrate
Like
for us.
not like just like a teaspoon, but not a teaspoon.
Like a spoon.
like a
spoon.
spoon.
Like a spoon?
Like just a regular spoon. I think this is too skinny. Oh no.
It could work, but I
It
think
could
needs
work,
to
but
be
I
wider.
would get a little bit of just like a tablespoon. And
Yeah,
if you pop
tablespoon,
it
that's what I meant to
into
say.
the top of it, it will keep your
Okay,
bubbles
we
bubbling.
have to try
Really?
this now.
All right, now
Yeah.
we're gonna
I
have
feel
to
like
try it.
I
know.
promise
Tonight.
you.
No, I'm gonna try it at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, it's my like
I feel-
party trick.
We're Midwesterners. Maybe I think my grandma just did it.
It does keep your bubbles. So somebody told me
'Cause
that.
she lost the
oh, it's.
Put a spoon in it.
So I learned this from my sister, and it's something with the spoon inside of it. It creates the same like
the
gas
silver
or
or
whatever it is
something?
Oh, okay.
that creates the
metal?
bubbles.
Of the silver or
Wow.
something.
Learned 2 things so far. Great.
What was the
Nice.
first thing you learned?
The boba.
Oh yes, we're coming to
getting
you
to
with
that.
some cocktails that you can make out of these, or additives that you can add to increase the flavors.
All right. Are we ready for the champagne?
Yep.
Cool.
So is champagne versus sparkling wine like typically just like on average like drier? Because I do think it has a different taste than when you do a prosecco or some sparkling wines that are like champagne.
Uh huh. Yeah. Well, they're gonna have a stronger kind of like bready, yeasty component to it, kind of like brioche bread or croissant or something
Okay.
like that. They're also gonna have a little bit stronger acidity in them because it comes from a really cold area, and grapes from cold areas they have more acidity in them.
Are there areas that maybe wine countries like can't make champagne or sparkling wine?
Most
I was like,
most countries that
right, you can't do champagne anywhere other than the designated
Right.
area of
Champagne.
France.
There's a small
France.
area.
French.
It's for French.
Most countries that make wine, they make a sparkling wine as well. It's fun. It's great. I mean, who doesn't like enjoying bubbles?
Everybody wants
Yeah,
bubbles.
they're great for
There's
celebrations.
even,
right?
They're, you know,
vineyards in Nebraska. My best friend got married at one.
what's that?
Vineyards, or what do you call? Is a vineyard and a winery the same thing?
The vineyard's the land, the winery is the building.
Oh, okay. So my best friend got married at one in Nebraska.
Oh yeah, cool. Nice.
Nebraska wine.
There's wineries in all 50 states.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
interesting.
Because
Yep.
there's like cold weather grapes and warm weather grapes,
There are,
right?
yep.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
People are pretty savvy at making alcohol everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's wine, beer, spirits.
It's just better in
in
certain areas.
Yep.
Like French.
Like
Like
Fr-
French.
right. Absolutely
Question,
French. Yeah.
did the fires around Napa like take out any of your favorite wines?
No, not anyway.
Nope.
No.
No.
No, I don't.
Pretty simple answer.
No. There was some loss out there, but for the majority of the wines in the vineyards were actually already picked, and so the vines actually helped the buildings a whole lot, because as the vines got burnt out, it kept them away from the buildings. Otherwise, the fires would have come
Right,
right
yeah.
to the buildings. So there was definitely some losses of grapes. There were some losses of buildings as well, but all in all, it wasn't as bad as it sounded.
So did they just replant?
Yep, they'll replant, and then it'll take probably about 3 to 7 years or so to get those back into good quality production. Takes a while. That's why the wine's so pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best thing you can do for California and California wine is to buy more California wine, right? Because that means that boxes are moving and sales are being made, and they're getting money to replant and do that. So don't be scared that you're going to drink it all, and there'll be no more California wine. They're still coming, but the best thing you can do to help out there is to purchase from there. So
Cool.
yeah. So ready to try the champagne?
Yes.
Cheers.
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 Cheers. Such a little cheers.
You want me to get in there tougher?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Way more like airy.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does. Yeah. They're supposed to be light and fresh, and then that kind of bready, yeasty thing is more like on the
It kind of
aftertaste
feels
as it
like you
finishes up.
swallow more air. Does anybody else feel that way?
I think it's the bubble size. I think.
Okay,
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, because
Yeah.
you're taking in a bigger bubble, then it probably feels like you're having to swallow more of a bubble.
Right.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help.
No,
I don't know
it
if I
feels
am.
Right.
super airy when you swallow.
Delicate and fragile. It's great.
Yep.
That's what France tastes like.
Right. It's French.
It's
Yeah.
Shoot, we have had champagne tonight. Bubbles
Yes.
like make you giggly? No?
What's that?
Do bubbles make you giggly?
Yeah. They do.
Is there something scientific about bubbles making you giggly? Does it do something?
I've been not,
Keyword I was thinking of there.
I've not submitted myself to the scientific test,
I think it's
so
the
I don't know.
air and the
Oh, like the gas or something?
Sometimes when we open our champagne here,
Champagne.
when you open it and it hasn't been opened in a minute or whatever, we kind of cough a little bit from the pop of it.
Okay, from the gas coming out.
Yeah. Have you never done that?
I've
I
not-
literally only had two
Not-
people ever have that happen.
No.
It
Ashley and
happens to us
Quinlan.
Every time I like cough a little bit if it hasn't been opened and it's like a big burst. It's
No.
true.
I've not experienced that.
Try it sometime.
Yeah. I'm lucky I get to open new bottles all the time.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, this is our Nicholas Fouillat champagne. As you can see, like the bubbles are a lot smaller and they're quicker to come up.
Oh, so they're smaller, not
Yeah.
larger.
Yeah.
You
Feels
said
like
they
there's
were
more of
larger.
them.
No, the Prosecco's larger.
Yeah.
See, look at those bubbles.
I know.
Wait
that.
till it clears up a little
Oh.
bit, so that you can see them kind of run up the glass.
So the larger the bubble, the
The
less
less-
airy it is.
The less pressure is in the bottle.
This is airier. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. But can you see the difference of?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this one's like clearer.
It is. Yeah. It doesn't get that contact with the yeast cells in there, which
So
kind
that
of
makes
adds
it-
more
yeah.
color to it. These are also different grapes that are in there. So, oh yeah, I was going to tell you in champagne. So there's like the house style that's got the 3 different grapes, and then there's also Blanc de Noir, which is white of dark. So it's a white wine made from red grapes,
Ooh.
right? Because Remember when I said we were making the rosé?
Skins.
The skins,
You
yeah.
don't put the skins in it.
No skins in it. It's just the juice from the Pinot Noir grape. So it's a white wine from a black grape.
Is it delightful?
They're great, yeah. Then there's also Blanc de Blanc, which is white to white. So it's a sparkling wine just with Chardonnay in it, because Chardonnay is a white grape. Okay.
Wait, it's a sparkling Chardonnay?
Yeah.
Tell me again the name?
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
Blanc de Blanc.
Blanc de Blanc, champagne.
White on white.
You're gonna sound so fancy when you.
I'll be like, I'll take a Blanc de Blanc.
She's gonna be like, I'll do the white on white.
Yeah.
It's from France.
Right, yeah.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
So if you have a white grape,
Uh-huh.
can you put the skins in it and it won't change its color, or not?
It won't change the color.
Is there
It'll-
any reason to do that?
It'll make it a tiny bit darker. They do it with Chardonnay sometimes to round it out just a little bit,
Okay.
but not very
Usually
often.
you wouldn't do that.
There isn't a huge need, because in the colored skins, they've got more flavor to them, and then they add some more tan into it. So
Gotcha.
it adds to the wine.
Okay.
So,
I'm learning
yeah.
so much.
Ready for cocktails?
I was going to say,
Yeah.
let's go to Ida's Corner.
Cocktail corner.
What do you have for us to make some
So one of my
cocktails?
favorite things to do at a party is just actually to have champagne, because it's oftentimes something that somebody will bring, right, to your party. They'll bring a bottle, so it's easy just to pop it open and already have like a lot of options available to your guests that are like easy to prepare ahead of time, and people can add them as they want or change them. So I have a few fresh ingredients and then a few more. I don't know what to call them, like, well, liquor-based ones, I guess. So we'll start the easiest ones, right? Strawberries and champagne. Everyone's always had
Yes.
that. You can cut them up like roses. You can just serve them as is. You
Of
can
course
just
you
chop
can.
them up.
I mean, I can't.
You can turn it into a bee.
You can also just macerate them with like a little bit of sugar, and then that comes out really
Oh,
pretty.
that's nice.
Is that true that like strawberries make champagne's flavor come out more? Is that why they put strawberries in champagne? And I totally got all
Yeah.
of this information from Pretty Woman.
Okay. All right.
You better not be doing drugs. in the bathroom.
Richard Gere told
Yeah.
Julia Roberts that
Oh,
that's why they did it.
I think it depends on the time the fruit's grown, probably, and then which champagne it is. Like what notes you're trying to emphasize, or
One of the cool things about champagne and sparkling wines, they pair with so many different foods. So pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not strawberries?
Yeah.
also why not raspberries? Those are another easy one that you can just like have out that you can drop in, and it always makes it like extra bubbly.
And even if it
Do you
doesn't
want a
change
berry?
the flavor, it's psychological and it's
Yeah, it just
prettier.
looks pretty.
I would like a raspberry, please.
Great.
Um,
Would you like a fruit?
Sure.
So the next one I have is
Surprise me.
Chambord, which is, I don't know, you guys have probably all seen this cute bottle on the shelf at
Great,
your
thanks.
bar or whatever. It's a raspberry-based liqueur. It goes in really well into the champagne. Actually, we'll add it to sparkling rosé as well, and it's really nice. The next one is, you all know Saint Germain, right?
Right.
Elderflower liqueur. It's got a nice kind of herbally sweetness to it. That's really nice. So you can have your guests pour that. Or a Colorado-based one, Leopold's Peach. It's kind of like a deconstructed Bellini. It's super great. Just a little bit to any champagne, or I haven't tried it in rosé, but it's probably really good in there too.
Are they Palisade peaches?
I think they are. It says Rocky Mountain Peach Liqueur. It's a Colorado-based company, so I imagine they get their
would guess
peaches
so.
locally sourced. But my secret ingredient is popping boba. So they come like this. They come in lots of different flavors, and they're super fun. People like just go nuts for them. So you can just drop in a few into the bottom. They look super cute. They taste great. They come in lots of different flavors.
Don't take my
and they're
boba
super
away.
fun. And they add to the flavor, but they also just add to the fun,
Yeah, oh,
kind
okay.
of the popping bubble idea that champagne already has going for it.
You got a lot going on here. Do you want to add all the 3 liqueurs as well? Suicide?
Suicide it.
So those are some of my favorite things to add to champagne.
I
You
like
can add
that.
to a champagne bar that makes it super easy to customize,
That's fun.
and doesn't take a lot of work on your part.
So what is a suicide spray tan?
Do you want to get one afterwards?
There's only one person
I
that
don't
can
know.
make it, and it's Lindsay.
Yeah?
Why?
Because you leave the gun in
Oh,
the room.
that's true.
We
It's my
all-
fault
yeah,
that we have
so then we're
suicide.
like, suicide.
So suicide is our
a
spray
house
tans. It's
a
our
house
house
blend.
blend.
Yeah, it's a house
Oh.
blend.
But
Right.
It's our
sometimes
house spray tan.
You don't know what you're
Right.
gonna get. We're thinking about changing it to roulette spray tan because you don't know what you're gonna get.
We take all of our leftover spray tans
Okay.
that we don't maybe know what it is, or it's like a blend custom for somebody, and we pour it all in one, and the staff uses it.
All right.
Spray
Right.
tan Saturday.
House blend, if you will.
Yeah. Call it a
Staff
cuvee.
meal?
Oh, it's a Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Cuvee.
Oh, Kool-Aid.
From France.
Kool-Aid from France.
Yeah.
For the love.
We're fancy. We're fast.
Mike, did you bring some additions that
I-
you?
Did.
I really want to
Yeah.
know what is in that bottle.
In this bottle?
Yep.
And this bottle is No Let's Gin.
Oh no.
We're
Change your mind.
we're gonna pour you a big glass of it.
Yeah,
No.
it's gin tasting now.
It is.
Oh, no.
Oh, I think you're gonna make my favorite cocktail.
Yeah. We're gonna make a little French 75.
Yep.
And so what a French 75 is a little bit of gin. I like No Let's. It's my favorite. It's a dry gin that's not super junipery. A lot of the London dry gins are like kind of
Yeah.
like a pine tree. This one's got like more flavors of raspberry and saffron and things like that.
Oh, saffron.
You might not want to smell it.
There's no way on God's
Yeah.
green earth am I going to smell that.
And then the
Would
next
you like to?
No.
Okay.
the next ingredient for it is normally lemon juice. Couldn't find any, but I found San Pellegrino Limonada. Feel like it's gonna work.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it might.
It also calls for a little bit of sugar in the drink as well. And I figured because it's like a sparkling lemonade.
There you are.
It's like
Just gotta tune it.
so a French 75 is a classic cocktail from Prohibition time as well. Yep. So they, I actually don't know where the name comes from. I'll have to look that up. But it's lemon juice, a little bit of sugar, champagne, and gin.
There was a bar called, I think it was called New York, that was in Paris, that started the drink, and then Harry from Harry's Bar in New York really adapted it after the war.
Yeah.
And the idea of the name from the drink was that it hit as hard as a French 75 millimeter cannon from the war.
Nice.
So
I always love a double alcohol
yeah,
situation.
and then sometimes people use cognac.
Scared, but I'm going to try
Yes.
to- to-
I've had all kinds of variations of it. It's
Yeah.
one of the cocktails that I order at a cocktail bar just to see how they do it because you can change it any various ways.
It's delightful.
Yeah.
It's not what I was expecting. I don't hate it.
So that's a win.
It's actually
I'd
really
say.
good.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like a lemonade. Well, obviously. But yeah.
And the French 75 is something that a lot of the mixologists now really kind of put their own twist on. So, something similar to like an old fashioned that's been really popular for the last couple of years, and every bartender kind of puts their own little spin on it, makes their own. French 75 is a great champagne cocktail that people are kind of making their own little twist on. Probably not with the San Pellegrino Limonada, but
I think it tastes pretty good.
Kind of like
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
I would prefer it.
Where do you get your bourba from?
I actually just got mine from Amazon.
Oh.
Boba.
Do you remember those bourba drinks that they used to sell at
Yes.
Nordstrom?
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
where I went.
Porvo water.
Yeah,
Loved it.
me too. I was obsessed.
But what are these called? Like the boba
So-
teas or whatever?
No, so boba comes in two forms. One is the tapioca
Okay.
part. Those are the dark ones that you
Okay,
see.
yes.
These ones are
They're
called
like
like,
jelly.
popping boba
Okay.
or juice boba. You can actually make them yourself if you have the right chemicals for it. So you could actually make any flavor boba with the right mix of
What chemicals are they made of?
they're just two, and it forms that jelly around the outside when it hits the water. So you drop it in there, and it makes the little droplets. So you technically you could make alcohol flavored one. I'm not
Oh,
that
that sounds
fancy,
nice.
but
No,
maybe
your
someday.
gummy
You
bears
really are.
like- I've had your gummy bears.
Yeah, it could be the new Jello shot.
Oh, I love
Ooh.
it.
Into it. Okay,
On it.
Yeah.
6 weeks.
Wow.
I think we're good,
Yeah.
right?
Any other champagne?
Any
or-
questions or
Actually,
anything that have?
I feel like I'm practically a sommelier
Yep.
at this point.
Is there a
On-
fancy
on your
one
way.
just for
Sommelier.
champagne?
What's
Can
that?
we make one?
Sommelier.
Is there a fancy name just for people who focus on
Oh, on
champagne
champagne.
or sparkling wines?
No.
Can we
A
make one?
sparkling
A
sommelier.
bublier?
A bublier.
Bublier. Yep.
Ida's our bublier.
To trademark it on the interwebs immediately.
Hashtag that right now.
Somebody. Alex.
Alex. A bubbly. Oh my
Oh.
gosh, it's brilliant.
Now I have a way to introduce her. She's our bublier.
Bublier. Perfect for beauty and bubbles, obviously.
Well, thank you guys all
Yeah.
for
Thank you, Mike.
all the
Thank you.
knowledge and cocktails and everything else that we learned today.
This
And-
might be my favorite episode ever
Right.
that we've ever
Yeah.
done.
Great.
Can we do this like once a month?
yeah,
Okay.
Why not?
we'll just taste different wines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
We'll
perfect.
I like
teach
it.
all the
Yeah.
wines.
Well,
all
I
the
think we're
wines.
good on whiskey, but we can do
Yeah?
the wine again.
Yeah.
I could do gin
We
for
could do
you.
vodka.
I'm in for vodka and gin, but
Oh no.
We could do all the types of gins.
I think it's actually a good idea. Not tequila.
The gins.
I'm gonna leave out
Fair
the
enough.
tequila one.
Okay.
And gin and
Okay.
just fine.
Well, next week we're really excited to have Judith Boyd from Style Crown on, teaching us all of the different beauty trends, like through
so excited.
so many different trends and generations, and kind of just keeping it to your own style. So,
And we're gonna make a cocktail out of one of the champagnes that we've tried tonight.
Oh, good.
Special for
Okay.
her.
perfect. If you have questions, always feel free to email, send us a Facebook message, Instagram. If you have anything that you want to see on Beauty and Bubbles, let us know. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Cheers.
Bye. Cheers. Thanks for joining
Yeah,
us.
that's right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Barbara's two favorite, and Chandon. Those